So, let's talk about that universal dread of the annual performance review. You know the exact feeling, right? The sweaty palms, the forced smiles, wondering if your boss actually remembered all those late nights you pulled back in November. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're totally moving past that anxiety. We're going to unpack the exact pipeline that takes cold, raw employee data and actually turns it into positive, tangible human outcomes. If you've ever found yourself wondering how modern organizations take this huge mountain of numbers and somehow transform it into meaningful, fair career steps, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to dive right into the mechanics of this process and see how we get from basic data collection all the way to real-world impact.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. How do we actually measure employee contributions fairly? Honestly, it's a massive challenge. It's kind of the holy grail of a healthy workplace. Without a structured system, evaluations inevitably just rely on a manager's gut feeling or, proximity bias, which just isn't equitable at all. Think about it. Imagine two employees. One sits right outside the boss's office, always seen leaving late, but let's be real, spends half the day scrolling. The other? Fully remote, logistically invisible, but ruthlessly efficient and just crushing every single target. If a manager relies on gut feeling, that highly visible employee is going to win out almost every time. It's frustrating, it's demoralizing, and frankly, it's just bad for business. We need a way to look at the actual work being done and measure it consistently for everyone. And the source text we're breaking down today? It gives us the exact formula for pulling this off.
All right, let's start with Section 1, defining performance analytics. We hear the phrase performance analytics tossed around a lot in corporate jargon bingo, but let's just strip away the buzzwords for a second. At its absolute core, this represents a massive shift. We're moving away from a subjective manager's diary approach toward a living, breathing, objective system. So, by definition, performance analytics is the systematic use of KPIs, appraisal scores, and productivity metrics to evaluate contributions and support fair reviews and growth. It's not just about hoarding numbers in a spreadsheet so management looks smart. Actually, no, it's an active, purposeful engine. It's designed to completely take the guesswork out of the equation and directly connect your technical metrics to your actual career trajectory.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 3 core inputs.
Now, to make this system actually work, we need raw material. The source data intentionally groups 3 very distinct elements together to form a complete picture, kind of like 3 equal slices of a pie. We're looking at key performance indicators, appraisal scores, and productivity metrics. Let's try to ground this in reality for a sec. Imagine a sales rep. Their KPI, maybe that's total quarterly revenue. The productivity metric could be the daily volume of client calls they're making. And that appraisal score? That captures the qualitative stuff. Structured feedback from their peers on teamwork, company culture, things like that. The point is, none of these stand alone. They absolutely have to work in harmony.
Think of these 3 concrete data points, KPIs, appraisal scores, and productivity metrics, as the primary colors of performance analytics. You literally need all 3 to paint an accurate picture. I mean, if we only measure productivity, say just the sheer number of calls our sales rep makes, and we completely ignore their appraisal score, we might accidentally end up rewarding some incredibly toxic behavior that's driving all their coworkers away. Or flip it around. If we only look at high-level KPIs without checking their daily productivity, we completely miss the context of how efficiently the work is actually getting done. The system fundamentally demands all 3 of these inputs to make sure our perspective isn't totally skewed.
Which brings us to Section 3, evaluating employee contributions.
So obviously this raw data doesn't just magically turn into a promotion or a growth plan all on its own, right? It has to go through a pretty rigorous processing stage. Think of this pipeline almost like a physical manufacturing process in a factory. First, the raw materials, our 3 core metrics, are gathered up at the start of the line. Second, they're fed into the processing machinery, and that is where the actual evaluation of contributions happens. And third, only after they are fully refined and analyzed do they exit the factory as a polished, tangible product, a supported review, and a strategic growth plan. It's a structured journey.
Now, the core action of this middle step is purely focused on accurately evaluating employee contributions using all that gathered data. This is where the analytics engine really starts to hum, and it's absolutely vital to understand how that hum translates to real life. Basically, this step removes human error. It removes the very real risk of a manager simply having a bad day during review season. Evaluating contributions means looking at those combined metrics and asking, okay, what is the true measurable impact of this person's work? It acts as an analytical bridge, one that protects both the company's bottom line and the employee's psychological safety.
Let's dive into Section 4, supporting fair performance reviews.
Performance analytics is, above all else, the great translator. It takes all that cold, hard data on one side, your KPIs and productivity metrics, and literally transforms it into human-centric outcomes on the other side, like fair reviews and growth planning. Just think for a minute about the profound relief of walking into your performance review knowing for a fact that you're going to discuss undeniable data rather than just vague feelings. You don't want a conversation based on a manager's fleeting impressions, do you? No, you want a dialogue totally grounded in the reality of your metrics. That is what guarantees equitable treatment. It takes away the anxiety of the unknown and replaces it with total clarity.
It's no secret that a massive percentage of employees actively dread performance reviews, mostly because they feel so arbitrary or biased. Well, this data-backed approach completely flips that script. The foundational text here explicitly guarantees that this analytical approach supports fair performance reviews, basically acting as an objective baseline for everybody. And to be clear, the data doesn't replace the human conversation, it empowers it. It gives everyone solid ground to stand on. Because when everyone in the organization is being measured by the exact same combination of metrics, the playing field is finally leveled. It turns what used to be a terrifying evaluation into an actual collaborative session.
And finally, Section 5, Planning for Employee Growth.
Because look, the pipeline definitely does not end at the performance review. Beyond just looking backward at what you've already done, performance analytics directly fuels growth planning to map out an employee's future trajectory. Let's look at a concrete example of this in action. Say your KPIs are just consistently exceeding expectations, which is great, but your productivity metric shows you're working 60 hours a week to pull it off. A purely data-driven growth plan isn't going to just tell you to do more. It's going to look at that and say, okay, let's get you some training on efficiency. Or maybe, hey, it's time to get you a larger team to manage. The data points us precisely toward the next logical, supportive step in your career development.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to think about how this applies to your own journey. How will performance analytics drive your next growth plan? Next time you're prepping for a review, don't just bring a list of your accomplishments, bring your analytics. How are you going to use your own data to write your future growth plan? Understanding this entire pipeline, from the raw KPIs and appraisals straight through to fair reviews, well, it puts the power right back in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this system today. Go out there, leverage your metrics, and keep looking for the human story hidden inside the data.